What defines a face that stops time? Is it the symmetry of a jawline, the haunting depth of a gaze, or the silent promise of a story yet to be told? For over 7 decades, Hollywood has given us men who were more than just shadows on a screen. They were architects of our dreams and reflections of our desires. From the brooding rebels of the 50s to the rugged individualists of the 70s, these are the icons who redefined masculinity, charm, and beauty. Welcome to Hollywood Memory Vault, where we journey through the golden age and beyond. Let us turn back the clock. Montgomery Clift, the beautiful brooding prince who wore his soul on his sleeve. Before Brando or Dean, Clift introduced a beautiful loser quality that captivated post-war audiences. His face was a pristine map of vulnerability until a tragic car accident in 1956 shattered both his features and his spirit. Marlon Brando, the raw force of nature who tore the shirt and the screen apart. When he cried out, "Stella," he changed acting forever. Brando proved that male beauty could be dangerous, unpredictable, and profoundly sweaty, bringing the method to the masses. William Holden, the cynical golden boy with the world-weary smile. Golden Holden represented the darker side of the American dream. His role in Sunset Boulevard proved that a handsome face could hide a desperate, opportunistic heart, reviving a stalling career. Rock Hudson, the towering giant of romance who lived a double life. He was the studio system's ultimate fabrication, 6'5" and impeccably charming. While he played the ladies' man on screen, his off-screen life was a carefully guarded secret, adding a layer of poignancy to his romantic leads. James Dean, the eternal rebel whose fire burned too bright to last. With only 3 major films, he became the symbol of teenage angst for every generation that followed. He died before Rebel Without a Cause was released, freezing him in time as Forever Young. Tony Curtis, the Bronx boy with the prettier-than-life eyelashes. He was the prettier face of the 50s, often fighting for respect as a serious actor beneath the matinee idol surface. His ducktail haircut became so iconic that Elvis Presley reportedly copied it. Charlton Heston, the chiseled face of biblical proportions. Hollywood didn't just cast him as a man, they cast him as history itself. He possessed a physical grandeur that made audiences believe he could actually part the Red Sea. Tab Hunter, the all-American boy next door with the secret life. He was the Psy guy, the blonde dream of the late 50s. Like Hudson, he lived a double life in a homophobic industry, later becoming a symbol of resilience. Paul Newman, the man with the piercing blue eyes that saw right through you. He was the bridge between the golden age and the modern anti-hero. Famously devoted to his wife, Joanne Woodward, he once quipped, "Why go out for a hamburger when you have steak at home?" Steve McQueen, the king of cool, who said more with a look than a monologue, the anti-star. He loved racing cars more than red carpets. His icy blue stare and minimalist style defined a new, harder edge of masculinity as the 60s approached. Warren Beatty, the intellectual playboy who seduced Hollywood. He was so charismatic that he won Most Promising Newcomer awards before the public had even decided. He remains the only person besides Orson Welles to be nominated for acting, directing, writing, and producing the same film twice. George Peppard, the dashing leading man with the ice blue gaze. Before he was Hannibal in the A-Team, he was the romantic lead who held his own against Audrey Hepburn. A perfectionist, he famously clashed with the rigid studio system. Robert Redford, the golden-haired Sundance kid who defined American handsomeness. He spent a lifetime trying to prove he was more than just a pretty face, eventually founding Sundance to champion gritty art over Hollywood glamour. Sidney Poitier, the epitome of elegance, dignity, and grace under pressure. In 1963, he became the first black actor to win the Academy Award for Best Actor. He didn't just break the glass ceiling, he shattered it with a quiet, undeniable intensity. Sean Connery, the Scottish roughneck who became the world's smoothest spy. Ian Fleming originally hated the casting, calling him an overgrown stuntman. Connery's panther-like movement and dangerous charm set a standard that every 007 since has chased. Clint Eastwood, the man with no name and the squint that killed. He was a studio reject because his Adam's apple was too big and he spoke too slowly. He took those flaws to Italy, wore a poncho, and returned as a global icon. Dustin Hoffman, the unconventional lead who proved character was beauty. Short, awkward, and ethnic in a sea of waspy leads, he changed the definition of a movie star. He got the role of Benjamin Braddock because the director wanted someone who looked uncomfortable at his own party. Michael Caine, the bespectacled Cockney who made working class cool. Before him, British actors spoke with the Queen's English. Caine kept his Cockney accent, telling the world you didn't need to be an aristocrat to be a heartthrob. Burt Reynolds, the mustache, the laugh, and the centerfold swagger. He exuded a raw, virile charisma that defined the era. He famously posed nude for Cosmopolitan, a move that cemented his sex symbol status but overshadowed his acting chops for years. Ryan O'Neal, the baby-faced heartbreaker of the melodrama era. He went from amateur boxer to the weepiest heartthrob of the decade. His boyish charm and love story would soon define the romantic tragedy genre. Elliot Gould, the curly-haired icon of counterculture cool. The anti-movie star for a cynical generation. With his slouching posture and rapid-fire delivery, he represented a neurotic, distinctly 70s sex appeal. James Caan, the tough guy with the tragic, explosive heart. Before he was the hothead Sonny Corleone, he broke the nation's heart in Brian's Song, proving he could be terrifyingly violent and heartbreakingly gentle in the same breath. Al Pacino, the intense, brooding eyes of a new cinematic dynasty. Executives thought he was too short and too Italian. He proved them wrong with a masterclass in silence, showing that true power doesn't need to shout. Jack Nicholson, the shark-like smile that hid a million secrets. By 1973, he was the face of the new Hollywood, rebellious, manic, and magnetic. He spent a decade in B-movies before exploding as the man you couldn't look away from. Robert De Niro, the chameleon, who disappeared into every soul he played. He lived in Sicily for months to perfect the dialect for The Godfather Part de Fer, becoming the first actor to win an Oscar for a role spoken mainly in a foreign language. Jeff Bridges, the easygoing natural with the surfer boy charm. Born into a dynasty, he never rested on his name. By 75, he established a relaxed, effortless beauty that would eventually evolve into the cult status of the Dude. Sylvester Stallone, the underdog who wrote his own destiny. He was broke and sold his dog to survive. He refused to sell the Rocky script unless he could star. He bet on himself, and the world won. Mark Hamill, the farm boy who looked at the stars and dreamed. His fresh-faced innocence was the perfect canvas for a galaxy far, far away, grounding a space opera in human emotion and becoming the face of the hero's journey. John Travolta, the disco king who walked with a rhythm all his own. In the late 70s, he was the biggest star on Earth. He trained for 9 months for Saturday Night Fever, transforming a gritty drama into a cultural phenomenon through sheer physical charisma. Harrison Ford, the scruffy carpenter who became the galaxy's favorite rogue. He was working as a carpenter when Lucas asked him to read lines for other actors. He read them with such arrogant, weary perfection that he accidentally stole the part of Han Solo. Richard Gere, the sleek, high-fashion sex symbol who defined a new decade. With American Gigolo, Gere didn't just act, he wore the suit. He ushered in an era where male vanity was no longer taboo, but a weapon of seduction. Mel Gibson, the blue-eyed wild card from the Australian outback. Before Hollywood beckoned, he was the breakout star of Australian cinema. His intensity in Gallipoli proved he could carry a dramatic weight that matched his action star physicality. Tom Selleck, the mustache that launched 1,000 ships. He famously had to turn down the role of Indiana Jones because of his contract for Magnum PI. Yet, he became an icon of rugged warmth on the small screen, defining 80s masculinity. Mickey Rourke, the soft-spoken rebel with a dangerous edge. In '83, he was hailed as the next Brando. His performance in Rumblefish was hypnotic, a reminder that beauty could be bruising before boxing took its toll on his face. Ralph Macchio, the baby-faced underdog who fought for honor. He looked 16 when he was 22, allowing him to embody the eternal teenager. As Daniel LaRusso, he became the decade's ultimate symbol of resilience. Rob Lowe, the impossibly perfect face of the Brat Pack. With eyes that seemed too blue to be real, he played the bad boy Billy Hicks. He was the visual anchor of the Brat Pack, representing the excess and beauty of mid-'80s youth. Patrick Swayze, the dancer who punched like a heavyweight. A trained ballet dancer with the swagger of a cowboy. He proved that a man could be graceful and rugged simultaneously, culminating in the cultural explosion of Dirty Dancing. Matthew Broderick, the charm that could get away with anything. He wasn't the muscle-bound hero, he was the wits. As Ferris, he broke the fourth wall and invited the audience into a conspiracy of fun, defining the 80s slacker cool. Bruce Willis, the smirk that saved Christmas. Before Die Hard, he was a TV comedy actor. He changed the action genre by playing a hero who got hurt, bled, and complained, making him infinitely more relatable than the invincible gods of the era. Keanu Reeves, the time-traveling dreamer with a Zen soul. He started as the ultimate goofball, but his exotic, mixed-heritage beauty hinted at the depth that would later make him the one. 1989 was the year the world first fell for his breeziness. Johnny Depp, the cheekbones that cut through the mainstream. He was a TV teen idol who hated the label. In 1990, he teamed up with Tim Burton to hide that beautiful face under scars and makeup, ironically making him even more of an icon. Brad Pitt, the hitchhiker who stole the movie and the decade. He was on screen for less than 15 minutes, but his abdominal muscles and cowboy hat in Thelma and Louise created an instant superstar. He was the new Robert Redford, but with a grungier edge. Will Smith, the fresh prince who conquered the globe. Transitioning from rap to TV to film, he possessed a charisma so blinding it felt inevitable. By '92, he was the king of TV, poised to become the king of the summer blockbuster. Brendan Fraser, the wide-eyed hunk with a heart of gold. He could play the caveman or the intellectual. His physical beauty was massive, but he played against it with a goofiness that made him the decade's most lovable lead. Leonardo DiCaprio, the boy wonder with the face of an angel and the talent of a vet. Before Titanic, he was the indie darling. He stole scenes from De Niro and Depp, proving that his boyish looks hid a ferocious acting capability. Denzel Washington, the most dignified walk in Hollywood history. By '95, Denzel wasn't just an actor, he was an institution. In Crimson Tide, he went toe-to-toe with Gene Hackman, cementing his status as the leading man who commanded absolute authority. George Clooney, the Caesar haircut that brought classic glamour back. He broke the TV actors can't do movies curse. With a head tilt and a smile, he channeled the ghost of Cary Grant, bringing a mature, suave sophistication to a grunge decade. Matt Damon, the boy genius from Boston. He wrote his own ticket to fame. Alongside his best friend, he created a role that showcased both his intellect and his all-American looks, winning an Oscar for writing before acting. Ben Affleck, the tall, dark jawline of the new establishment. While Damon was the character actor, Affleck was the movie star. Armageddon proved he could carry a blockbuster on his shoulders, cementing him as the romantic lead of the late 90s. Jude Law, the golden god of the British invasion. In Ripley, he was described as the sun. His beauty was so blinding and arrogant that it became a central plot point, defining the destructive power of charisma. Josh Hartnett, the reluctant heartthrob with the soulful squint. He was on every magazine cover in 2000, the it boy who walked away from Superman to pursue a quiet life, making him an enigma of the era. Orlando Bloom, the elf who aimed straight for the heart. He had 0 film credits when he was cast as Legolas. With a blonde wig and blue contacts, he became the pinup for the fantasy generation. Colin Farrell, the Irish bad boy with the dangerous eyebrows. He was the antidote to the polished stars of the 90s. Chain-smoking and candid, he brought a raw, chaotic energy that Hollywood had been missing since the 70s. Ashton Kutcher, the trucker hat king of the prank era. He defined the MTV generation. With Punk'd, he proved that a pretty face could also be the mastermind behind the joke, dominating pop culture in 2003. Jake Gyllenhaal, the cult hero with the puppy dog eyes. He transitioned from the weird kid in Donnie Darko to a blockbuster hero in 2004. He has spent his career oscillating between the two, never settling for just being handsome. Matthew McConaughey, the leaning tower of Southern charm. Before The Reconnaissance, he was the king of the rom-com. His lean against the poster in 2005 became his trademark, selling the fantasy of the laid-back lover. Hugh Jackman, the song and dance man with the adamantium claws. He is the triple threat of the modern era. In 2006, he starred in The Prestige, proving he could leave the Wolverine claws behind and carry a complex, dramatic thriller. James McAvoy, the Scotsman with the eyes of a tragedian. His performance in Atonement broke hearts worldwide. He brought a vulnerability and intelligence that made him the thinking person's crush of 2007. Zac Efron, the basketball player who sang his way to stardom. He was the poster boy for the Disney machine. In 2008, he graduated from TV to the big screen, carrying the weight of millions of teenage obsessions with a megawatt smile. Robert Pattinson, the sparkle that launched a billion screams. He hated the role that made him famous. As Edward Cullen, he became the most photographed face in the world, a reluctant idol who spent the next decade proving he was a serious artist. Ryan Reynolds, the wit that was sharper than his jawline. Before he wore the red suit of Deadpool, 2010 was the year he proved his acting chops in Buried, acting inside a coffin for 90 minutes. Bradley Cooper, the blue-eyed smirk of the Hangover generation. He went from playing the jerk friend to the leading man in Limitless, utilizing those piercing eyes to convince the world he was the smartest man in the room. Chris Hemsworth, the god of thunder from Down Under. He brought a Shakespearean gravity and a bodybuilder's physique to the MCU. In 2012, he stood amidst an ensemble cast and looked like the only true deity among them. Henry Cavill, the jawline of steel. He was once dubbed the unluckiest man in Hollywood for losing roles to Pattinson and Craig. In 2013, he finally donned the cape, bringing a stoic, classical beauty back to the superhero genre. Chris Pratt, the funny guy who got fit. He transformed from the lovable, chubby Andy Dwyer into a chiseled action star overnight. He proved that a sense of humor was the ultimate six-pack. Michael Fassbender, the shark-like intensity of a new generation. He possesses a dangerous beauty. In 2015, he played both Macbeth and Steve Jobs, two tyrants, showcasing a terrifying charisma that captivated critics. Tom Hardy, the beautiful brute behind the mask. He is famous for covering his face in films, yet his eyes convey everything. He represents a rugged, mumbly masculinity that serves as a direct contrast to the polished superhero. Idris Elba, the man who should have been Bond. By 2017, the internet had collectively decided he was the coolest man alive. His presence in Thor and the Dark Tower exuded an effortless, commanding authority. Jason Momoa, the wild king of the oceans. He single-handedly made Aquaman cool. With scars, tattoos, and long hair, he brought a rock and roll aesthetic to the pristine world of comic book movies. Noah Centineo, the internet's boyfriend. He revived the rom-com for the streaming era. His whoa-whoa charm and approachable looks made him the Gen Z successor to the Mark Ruffalo archetype. Michael B. Jordan, the champion with the heart of a producer. In 2020, he was named the sexiest man alive. He represents the modern mogul, beautiful, politically active, and in total control of his own narrative. Paul Rudd, the vampire who refuses to age. It became an internet meme that he never ages. His selection as sexiest man alive at 52 was a celebration of kindness and humor as the ultimate beauty hacks. Chris Evans, America's sweetheart, finally gets the crown. After hanging up the Captain America shield, he finally accepted the title of sexiest man alive. He is the golden standard of traditional American masculinity. Austin Butler, the method actor who resurrected a king. He didn't just play Elvis, he became him, reportedly losing his own accent for years. His dedication brought a dangerous, sweaty sensuality back to the screen. Jacob Elordi, the towering giant of the new Euphoria. At 6'5", he looms over his co-stars. In Saltburn, he played the object of obsession, a golden god whose beauty is both his power and his downfall. Timothée Chalamet, the face of the future. He is the Lisan al-Gaib of Hollywood. Moving away from the muscle-bound heroes of the 2010s, he offers a sharper, more androgynous, and soulful definition of what it means to be a leading man in 2025. From the tear-filled eyes of Montgomery Clift to the desert gaze of Timothée Chalamet, we have witnessed 75 years of evolution. The clothes change, the hairstyles shift, but the power of a face to captivate a dark room remains the one constant in cinema. These are the men who defined our dreams. And as the reel ends, we can only wonder, who will be the face of tomorrow? Thank you for watching.